Welcome to the video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at implementing radio buttons and how we can group them together, just make use of them so that only one is selected when we need to, and then how do we use that value that is selected within our program. So we're going to flesh out this radio button over here. So let's do that right now. We're going to come to the radio button and we're going to double click. Nope. There we go. This is going to generate our action performed method. And within this action performed, okay, I can see something first, that this button is JButton2. It would be preferred that we name it. So we're going to change variable name to button underscore combo is fine. And come back and it's looking good. Now what I'd like to do, since we're keeping with the theme, is I would like another screen to pop up here at the bottom that's going to showcase the skill of radio buttons. So we need to make an internal frame. So we're going to come to our screens folder, responsible for holding all of the screens that we make. We are going to do an internal frame and we are going to call it internal frame underscore radio. That's good. And then we're going to go to properties. I want it to be closable within the project. Default size should be fine. We'll play around with that when we actually run it and see what it turns out like. Now I would like a good couple of radio buttons. So I'm going to click from the palette, radio button 1, radio button 2, and I would like radio button number 3. Great. And we're just going to give these basic values such as red, blue, and green. Great, should be fine. We are also going to rename these since we're going to be accessing them individually. So I'm going to call them radio button underscore red, radio button, no, underscore blue, and we are going to do radio button underscore green. Now the way radio buttons work is that they are separate components until we add them to a button group. And for that to happen, we actually need to come to our code over here. And underneath our init components, so we're working within the constructor currently. And if you remember, what the constructor is responsible for is this is essentially the setup of our class. Whenever we call the constructor, when we are instantiating an object, so creating an actual version of the class, this is the first block of code that's going to be run. The init components method must always be first when you're working with your GUIs. And what init components calls is actually this long block of code over here, which is responsible for layering all of the GUI elements. It is possible to code out your GUI elements and style them accordingly, but look at what a pain this is. So we're definitely not going to be doing that. I'm going to hide that over here. Now what I want to make is a button group, and I'm going to call it button group colors is equal to new button group, like so. Then I needed to import, so there's button group that I've just imported over here. And now I need to add all of my buttons to this button group. We're going to say that they all belong to a single grouping, meaning only a single item can be selected. So I'm going to say bgcolors.add, and I'm going to say radio button red. It's done it for me, gets the idea. And we're going to add all of our associated buttons. So we have red, we have blue, and we have green. Great. Now all of the buttons are part of this button group. So within radio button, I would like to make an internal frame underscore radio. I'm going to name this internal frame radio obj. It's equal to new internal frame radio, just like that. And then following my program, I would like to add the frame to the panel when the button is pressed. So I can say internal frame radio obj, just like that. And then when I do that, I would like to set it as visible. Good. Now if I come to my program, there we go, it pops up, and now these can be individually selected, which is great. But now we want to be able to use the values that the user has selected. So I'm going to close that. Okay, now that we've added our 3 radio buttons and we have added them to our button group, I would like to have a label next to it. And we are going to change what this label's value is depending on what has been selected. So I can edit text, make that blank. Since we're going to be accessing the values of the labels, we need to rename it. So I'm just going to rename it to color. That should be fine. Let me just see. I want this centered. And maybe I can make this a bit bigger. Just italics. Okay. Now each of these, instead of having a button to trigger the event as we've seen before, I want to show you that there's other ways in which you can trigger events, such as these. So this is a radio button underscore red. This is a radio button underscore blue. And this is a radio button underscore green. Okay, now when the radio button red is triggered, we want to take label underscore color, great, dot set text, and we want to take radio button underscore red dot get text, just like that. And we're going to repeat this for the 2 other buttons as well. You can take that, you can just paste it over there. So label color, instead of red, this is going to be blue. And instead of green, well, instead of blue, or instead of red, this is going to be green. Just like so. And if I run this, I go to my radio button. There we go. Red, blue, green, blue. Cool. That's another way in which you can trigger events, meaning an action to happen within your program, and that's how you can make use of radio buttons to simplify choices that the user needs to make. Radio buttons are also fantastic for controlling the input you get from the user. By not having them type out the color, we can ensure there's no spelling mistakes. There's no need for validation to happen as well, because we are getting the exact data that we expect because it was placed there by us.